What's up, dads? Your boy Big Dave back with another episode of Culture Dads, Age of Sword and Cassette. Good morning, Mike. What's going on, sir?
Well, it ain't morning over here, bro.
Yeah,
but I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Yeah. How about yourself? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm pretty excited to talk about what we're going to talk about because this is something that I actually have some real life experience with. Right? Nice. We're going to be talking about the culinary arts. We're gonna talk about some history and some stuff like that, but we're also going to get into some practical advice. And this is Mike's idea because a lot of guys don't know how to cook, and a lot of guys, more importantly, don't know how to cook at a high level,
or even a passable level, like beyond throwing some chicken nuggets into the oven, or I don't know, just whatever, just like bullshit, basically, right? Most guys, their culinary skills, I don't know about most guys, but a lot of young guys, their culinary skills are exhausted by, boiling up some pasta and dumping a jar of sauce onto it, or some ramen noodles or something like that. And that's just, it's pathetic. I'm sorry to say, I'm being blunt about it here. And look, you know what, though? I was that guy. I was that guy for a very long time. It wasn't until I got into my 30s that I actually learned how to cook at all, basically. I mean, I could make a couple of things and whatever, but nothing, everything I could make back then, I can make so much better now. And maybe 10 or 20 times more shit. So yeah, it's important. So I thought that we should talk about this. We talked a little bit about it on the pizza episode, and I think we may, we're not going to really repeat much of what we said there, I'm sure, but we are sort of treading some of the same ground. It's the culinary arts, right? This is important to us as a folk, but it's important to you as an individual as well to be able to cook well. It's a flex. It's part of being a man, right? It saves you money. You eat better. You eat healthier. You feel better, and you just feel better about yourself, right? It gives you kind of self-respect. You can feed yourself. So it's important, right? I think that's a good way into it.
Yeah. So you guys out there that are stressing about maybe you make the ramen noodles or you make the chicken nuggets, your boy Chef Dave is here to help you out. For those of you who don't know, I have spent most of my time in the culinary industry, right, at multiple levels. I started out, pizza shops, and which no hate towards pizza shops. That's a tough gig. It can be a tough gig cooking in a pizza shop. Started out pizza shops and restaurants and stuff. I even worked in fast food when I was real young, and then I worked in fine dining for quite a few years. So your boy is Chef Dave, and
he knows what he's talking about.
Know what I'm talking about with this kind of stuff. So when we're talking about culinary arts, I feel that culinary arts is probably the thing that gets overlooked the most among our guys. And it's very, very unfortunate because there are some folks in history that if they didn't exist, we would still be eating I don't even know what we would be eating, gruel with plums in it or something. I don't even know what we would be eating. The way that we eat today is very, very shaped by a few time periods. And I'd like to do a quick little history of the culinary arts before we get into talking about practical stuff and our experiences working in kitchens and stuff like that. So like many things, all roads lead to Rome, right? The first chef that we can point to that established a culinary tradition is Apicius in Rome. And I'm not going to go too far into Apicius because we talked about it in the pizza episode pretty thoroughly. So go back to the pizza episode, check that out. But Apicius, he wrote a cookbook. He was the first guy that wrote a cookbook. And if you go open the cookbook, there are a few things that are striking. And the first thing that's striking is that this guy codified some ways to cook things that we still do today. Things like frying, things like roasting, things like basting, things like creating certain salt. Based, exactly. It's fucking based. things like making certain types of sauces, et cetera, et cetera. This guy was the primordial chef, the OG chef, the first one, and he cooked for the nobles of Rome. This was the job of the first chef. Culinary arts was only something that was really enjoyed by the noble class for quite a few centuries. So this is the beginning. So fast forward a little bit into the Middle Ages. You go to the Middle Ages, and the culinary arts kind of fall down quite a bit, actually. There are still cooks that are cooking for kings and queens, but the food it's not nearly as sophisticated as it was in Rome. It's only like it's only like a couple steps above the common folk. It's just there's a lot of it. You know what I mean? And this is when they start to import spices from the East, and they get really big into that, right? So you're looking at things like, they had your roast pork, and they had, different vegetables and stuff like that, breads. This is when the nobility actually started to eat bread. Like, bread became a thing that they would eat. I mean, it's not as much as we eat it today, but compared to like the ancient Rome, the noble class didn't even touch bread. That was like, no, that's for poor people. We don't eat bread. Right? They would eat pulse, which is made from gluten, but they would not touch bread. Bread is like, no, that's no go. But the people in Rome loved bread, and they had actually very sophisticated way of baking bread. They had a lot of really good recipes. They were very talented bakers back then, and this tradition carried through into the Middle Ages when cookeries or bakeries began to be ran by guilds, right? We had the guild system back in the Middle Ages, and the guilds they would oversee, they would make sure prices were right, they would make sure that there was cleanliness, they would make sure people got paid right, etc. They were like unions, right? For you guys that aren't familiar with the guild system. So they would run these bakeries, and originally, and then eventually the bakeries, one bakery in France, there was a baker that started to sell soup, and he called these soups restoratives, and this is where we get our word restaurant. So eventually bakeries started to sell soups. They started to sell bread with meat and cheese and stuff baked into it. They started to develop more culinary tradition, and not just bread that the peasants would take home and eat with their food. And to be clear, the medieval diet, even for peasants, was not that bad. It was actually pretty good. If you went back in time back then, at least during times of plenty, and you're not during a plague or a great war or something like that, if you went back in time to hang out with, let's say, like the lower middle class of the Middle Ages, you would be like, wow, you guys are eating pretty good. They had access to fresh salmon. They had fresh produce. They ate mushy peas. Their porridge was their porridge and their bread was much more nutritious than what we have today. They ate a lot of oats, and they had fresh fruit, and they had beer that they brewed themselves. They ate and drank pretty good. Their diet was more nutritious than ours is today. Right, your medieval peasant ate better than your middle class.
That's a pretty fucking low bar, though. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's something that I point out every time it gets brought up. Is we watch movies, we hear what the academics say, the progressives, they have this idea that everything in the past was filthy and disgusting and worse. The bottom line is that medieval people had straighter spines, they had wider jaws, they had better eyesight, and they had more nutritious meals with fish from plentiful waters that were not overfished yet. They had access to fresh produce and stuff like that. They ate and drank good. These were healthy people, and we know that because when we dig them up, they don't have their, like, I guess some of them will have some problems, but on average they have better teeth than we do. They had less problems than us. A lot of that.
Also, helpfully, they had a more eugenic environment. So
they did.
That certainly helps too. Anyway,
so going forward, fast forward to the next big marker in the timeline of culinary arts, in my view, is coming in around like the Napoleonic Wars, right? They were talking late 1700s, and there was a fella named Marie Antoine Caramé, right? He was a French guy. The French were huge. Culinary was huge in France, and this was the time where, especially under King Louis XIV. King Louis XIV was obsessed with the culinary arts. He was obsessed with this kind of stuff. He's the guy. He got rid of this he called it medieval gluttony, and he decided to start serving him and his court in courses to not waste food, because he felt that was gluttonous and rotten, right? And then he also introduced this idea of, let's not use foreign spices and all this foreign ingredients. Let's grow it here. I want fresh, is what he said. So they started growing their own leeks, their own onions. This is where the artichokes come into the game. This is when, and this bled over into other countries as well. The Italians were like, hey, maybe tomatoes aren't poisonous. This was a big boom, and it was guided and influenced and informed by the noble classes, by the royalty, and this obviously bled into the other classes as well. Restaurants started trying to emulate that and trying to give people food like this. So this guy, Marie Antoine Caramé, he cooked for Tsar Alexander I. He cooked for Napoleon. He cooked for all kind of people. Man, we're talking kings and queens, and he was like the first. He was like the first Gordon Ramsay or something like that. You know what I mean? He was the first, but he was also a brilliant man. Invented a lot of stuff. This is where we get our mother sauces, or our leading sauces. This is one of the cores of culinary. How we understand it today are the mother sauces. He invented a bunch of different recipes, and this guy was like the Odinic force in culinary. He came in, burned it down, created all of this crazy stuff. Never really wrote anything down. He was just a man of passion and brilliance that kind of like threw it all out there. Look at, taste my food, taste it, and like, oh my God, it blew everybody away. So there's a guy that came after him that was sort of the Tyrrhic force, and this is the guy that everybody like really, really, really remembers. And this is a guy, Auguste Escoffier. This guy is probably more influential on our society and how we live than most big names that you could name in history. You talk about like Mozart or like somebody like names that everybody's familiar with. Auguste Escoffier has more influence on our everyday lives than most people you can name from history.
He's almost like the Edison of food. You know what I mean? Like there's a before and after him, and that's like the axial changeover. You know what I mean? He's a very, very important dude.
Big time. So this guy, Escoffier, was a French guy. He grew up in his uncle's kitchen, which back in those times, the kitchen, the restaurants were kind of filthy, chaotic places. They were places where you didn't want to work. It was grueling. It was long hours. It was dirty. It was not fun to work in those environments. So Escoffier got drafted into the military, and he spent a few years as an army cook and learned how to be a soldier. And when he came out, he used that experience to shape how to cook, how to operate a kitchen. So this guy, and he wrote a book too. I can't remember what the book's called, but in the book he outlines this is how we need to organized kitchens, and instead of chaos and instead of uncleanliness and instead of grueling long hours, he professionalized it. And this is where you get the word chef. This is where you get your sous chef and your saucier and your garde manger and your fry cook, and you get all of these guys, and you get how we understand kitchens today. You watch shows where kitchens, or you work in a high-end kitchen. Yes, chef. Heard chef. No chef. All of that stuff. Ready in 5, blah blah blah. fries working, all that kind of shouting things out and organizing, and almost
it's very much like a military culture in a way.
It is a military culture, 100%. In fact, the chef coat that you see is based off of the old French military coat, like captain's coat, and like all of that is literally based on military culture, and that is where you get the discipline and the cleanliness and like the hardcore kind of. It's almost like when you are cooking on a line in a high-end restaurant, you feel that you are at boot camp. It is like boot camp, right? There's no break. It's go go go. It's high pressure. There's shouting and yelling, and it's aggressive. It's a man's environment. It really is. But Escoffier, on top of that, in comes the advent of the stove, the wood stove. They didn't have stoves before this, a fire stove. So now they have burners. They have ways that they can bake stuff. The stove was a huge deal. And Escoffier, he invented canning, like ways to preserve food, like, in jars, like jarring, canning. He invented, he changed the way knives are shaped. So your chef knife that you use in your kitchen, that was from Escoffier's influence. This guy was he added another mother sauce. This guy changed the game. If you just go Google Escoffier inventions, and you'll be blown away by the amount of stuff that this guy does, like this guy came up with, that you use today. So fast forward a little bit, there's another restaurant that another spot in history that I think is important to mention is Delmonico's Steakhouse in Manhattan. This was a hugely influential part because in the old world, after the French Revolution and all the revolutions that happened in Europe, a bunch of kings and queens and shit got killed. So you had all of these royal chefs and everything that didn't have anywhere to work. So they just opened restaurants. And they're like, fuck, I guess I'll just cook for these people then, right? So they opened these cookeries, these restaurants, right? Well, from that culture, that didn't hit the diaspora. That didn't hit America yet. Well, Delmonico's came, and Delmonico's got set up in 1820 or something like that. And Delmonico's originally started as two Italian brothers. They opened a cafe, pastry shop, and eventually it became a restaurant, and it eventually blew up. This is before Manhattan was Manhattan as you see it today. It was still pretty popping. It was still a pretty popping hub of economic force, right? This was a place you could go and do good business, but it wasn't like it is today. Like a regular guy back in these times could buy property in Manhattan. It wasn't inaccessible millions of dollars kind of place, right? So they opened this restaurant called Delmonico's, and they are just brilliant, right? They invent dishes like eggs Benedict. They invent dishes like chicken a la king. They invent the Delmonico steak, that cut of steak that we all like. They invented it. They invent a lot of stuff. And in this, they start getting the who's who of America coming and eating at their place. Obviously like politicians and stuff, but also guys like Mark Twain and like, just the famous folks of that time came, and they took that back with them and spread that all throughout America. So this culinary tradition that started in Rome went to guys like Caramé and Escoffier and the French royalty, and then later ended up in America and spread throughout, became how we do cuisine. Haute cuisine became the standard of how we cook, and it blended in. It's really special. It blended in with our regional foods and our regional ideas too.
Yeah, it's quite an evolution. Actually, I was just looking at that Delmonico's place as you were mentioning it, because the name is very familiar, and then I just Googled it, and if you look at the actual building that it's situated, it's a very famous building in New York. Like if you just look at it, you'd be like, I have totally seen this before, kind of thing, right? So yeah, it's definitely that's an important landmark, especially in like, American cuisine and in the 19th century. It seems like the 19th century is kind of like when modernity really was born in so many ways. I mean, this goes far beyond what we're talking about today, but you kind of see things kind of becoming formalized in some ways, like especially with Escoffier. He kind of quantized cooking in a way that had not been done before. That like this was totally new. It's kind of hard to like get across just how innovative he was. He turned like cooking and the culinary arts into a science, right? So instead of having like a pinch of this, and you're just like winging it and shit in the kitchen, we've got like 1.5 teaspoons of this, cook on high flame for this time with this technique and everything. It's very 19th century, this book that he wrote. I think it's called Guide Culinaire or something. It's just like a culinary guide is what it means. It's very 19th century. It turns everything into a science, and it's he's writing it all down. I actually thought that what you said there about him being the Tyrrhic force is a very apt description. Actually, he reduces everything to writing, where you can now basically like he formalizes everything to where you can now make the same dish on successive nights or successive weeks, and it comes out exactly the same. And you no longer need the guild that was so important to like the culinary tradition before this, right? As Dave mentioned, the guild was basically like a trade union, but it was also the bearer of tradition. So whether it is in smithing or tailoring or in masonry or in cooking, in chef work, the guild was where you went to learn a trade. And so it's kind of like the trade union plus your training environment, right? And what this meant was basically that like generally things were not written down, because in some cases they were like they were trade secrets, of course. What Escoffier did was he basically went around kind of like Grimm the Brothers Grimm in the 19th century, and wrote down all the shit that was kind of like floating around that he could find. And he just put it into a massive guide. Like it was this guide was translated into English in the early like 1900s in a very much abridged version, and it comes out to 900 pages, right? This is a massive undertaking that this guy did. And I actually read through some of this book before the episode, and it is like it like he goes into the fundamentals of cooking. Like it's almost the first couple of chapters are almost philosophical in some ways. You know what I mean? He really starts from like the ground up in terms of cooking and everything like that. But importantly, and this may sound kind of prosaic, he writes everything down. And this is important. And this is something that I want to get across to guys, because, this episode is as much about, the history of the culinary arts and the importance of it. It's also an exhortation for you to get out there and like learn to cook. Like if like one person picks up like a cookbook and starts to like learn how to make Italian or like Asian stir fry or something like that, if one person gets out of this episode, I will feel like we've done like it's been a success, right? But it's an exhortation to do this shit. And one of the things that I want to get across here for guys who are interested, who want to start to learn how to cook, maybe the most important tip that I can give is kind of the same thing actually that Marcus Folan says about going into the gym. He says, my most important piece of equipment when I go into the gym is my pocketbook, where I write down everything. I write down my reps. I write down the weight. I write down how I've progressed. And this is like, without this, I basically am just flying blind. And it's the same thing with your recipes, right? You have to write everything down always. This is the essential feature of science after all, right? Like everything is noted down, written down, made public. Everyone, it's there for all to see. This is how you go. And in general, this is, a life lesson. You can apply this to many domains. This is how you go from shitty to okay to great to fucking amazing, right? You've got to write things down. If you want to progress in anything, you have to have some sort of a record, right? Keep a set of files. This is what I do on my computer, right? Like I've got a bunch of shit. Actually, one of the prompts for me to suggest this episode to Dave was that I've recently taken all of my, like I've got a little subfolder on my computer that's just got like tons of notepad files that are totally disorganized. And what I've done now, because I'm the chef in the family, I'm the one that cooks the dinners. Every week I come up with, however many dinners we need, and I'm actually putting them formally into Word files now. And this is going to eventually become a book that I give to my kids. So this is important, right? Do that. At least start keeping notes and stuff like that. This is how you get better at anything. This is how you get better at cooking. So Escoffier is kind of a model for this, right? So he's important. It's an important paradigm. So yeah.
He also invented the bouillon cube.
Like, what didn't he invent, right? Like, it's crazy.
I think he got attributed to he recorded something like 10,000 recipes and invented 5,000, or I can't, maybe those numbers are wrong, but it was some astronomical number. But anyway, what Mike was talking about, I'm going to be honest with you guys. If we meet in person and I know that you can't cook at all, that's I feel some kind of way about that. You know what I mean? I there's guys who, post physique. I'm post what you could cook. If you can't cook, you're the kind of guy that doesn't read books. You're like you're like a little baby or something. You know what I mean?
It is kind of infantile, isn't it? I'm not trying to because there's probably a lot of guys that are listening that don't really do that, but I'm not trying to make you feel shitty or whatever, but it is kind of, you're right when you say it's like a little baby or whatever. And look, hey, again, I was there until only kind of recently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Only within the last 10 years have I made a concerted effort to learn how to actually do the shit, right? And it's mostly been prompted by having a family. So I get you, right? We've all got more important shit to do. We've got other things to do, but this is actually important, and it's more important than you think, right? And it will improve your quality of life quite a bit. And you know what? It women appreciate it too. It's something that of course they find attractive, right? So
it is a monster flex. If you want to impress a girl and you bring her over and you cook her some high end shit. Like you're in a restaurant and you serve wine, that is a gigantic flex. You're showing I am a man of culture. It's more important to be a man of culture than it is to be I think every man should be able to cook at high level. Every man should be able to dance a little bit. Every man should be able to do some sort of recite poetry or sing or do some. You should be a man of culture. And cooking is what is more important than cooking? You eat 3 times a day, 2 times a day, however many times a day. Eating, you have to eat to survive. So why not establish culture in your most frequent thing that you do?
It's an important question, right? What's for dinner? It really sort of hits you at your lizard brain level, right? When a woman comes over to your apartment and you can make a really nice meal. It's she's instinctually understands that you're a provider, right?
Yeah, big time. You're they say there was during the 50s and stuff like that, they kind of created this meme that women cook. And, there is a place for women in culinary. There's absolutely a place for women cooking. There's big family functions growing up. For me, it was always the grandmothers and great aunts got together and, cooked and, fed everybody. Right. But when it comes to high end culinary technique, the best chefs in history have all been men. Yeah, that is our thing, right? If you want to focus in and make one really special high-end dish, that's a man thing. And we're gonna get into. I'm gonna give you some examples of some dishes that you can do that are big flexes, that are not hard, that you can nail. I'm gonna go in. We're gonna talk about a few of the things that you need to do if you're not a cook. And I'm sorry, I'm going into Chef Dave mode, so I'm sorry if I'm sorry.
I will be there with you. I'll be your sous chef, man. We'll tag team it. Well, we were definitely like part of the impetus for this episode is to give guys tips, right? And also to exhort you and to light a fire under your ass to like do this shit. But yeah, definitely, like I think that's valuable. So yeah.
Hell yeah. So recently there was that lady that went viral going after the seasoning police, right? Talking about the seasoning police. And I'll tell you what, she's mostly right. She's mostly right when she's talking about these people when they say you don't use the seasoning. What they mean is you're not using this trash allspice. And you know, it's full of MSGs. And you know what? I have a little, like I have one that's like an allspice is not bad. You can have some allspice, right? But what's even cooler is making your own allspice. And what's even cooler is making your own allspice from herbs that you have dried yourself and grown yourself. It's not hard to grow herbs. You can have a little thing in your windowsill.
You don't even need a garden. You can just do it inside.
And it grows like it's a weed. It's an aromatic weed. It's very little effort, and it saves you money. So these people are like, oh, fresh herbs. This is, you know, white supremacist classism or whatever the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah, it is.
Bullshit. Well, it's not. It's not. It's what poor people do. You know what I mean? Because
I hear you.
Yeah. So it's like,
but it's what we do best, right? Like, you know, naturally it was Europeans that were going to like make this into a science and to perfect it, of course. And
use fresh ingredients, fresh garlic, fresh onion, fresh basil, fresh parsley. Dude, now here's where I kind of push back on this lady a little bit, is that there are certain times that dried seasonings taste different than fresh. For example, in one of the recipes I'm about to tell you guys about, it calls for dried tarragon as opposed to fresh tarragon, right?
Yeah.
This fresh tarragon isn't quite as pungent as dried tarragon. It's wonderful, and you can use it in place of dried tarragon, but I would prefer dried tarragon in this instance. But
basil's another one too, right? Like dried basil is quite different than fresh basil. I've got a recipe where I've got like two different pasta sauce recipes, one of which uses dried basil and one which uses the fresh basil, right? So you're right. It just depends. It just depends on what flavor you're going for. Actually, I do not have any problem at all with the dried spices. I think that like this is a good way in actually for guys who just want to jump in and be like, what's my first thing beyond making like craft dinner or something like that, right? Like you can make up your own spice mixes, get some chili powder, like you can make some taco seasoning, you can make your own curry powder, you can make your own barbecue rubs. This is a good first step. And it's good because if you can learn to balance flavors like this, then later on when you start to get a little bit more complicated with it, you're going to make a good cook because you just naturally and instinctually will be able to balance those flavors.
Yeah. And there's one thing that people say, and I see this all the time online. People like they'll look at like somebody cooking something in like a short video or whatever. Like, there's no love in that. There's no love in that. And this is such a bullshit thing that people say. There's no love in it. When somebody says there's love in a recipe, what they mean is extra steps and extra effort. That's what that means. That means taking extra steps to put more stuff into your ingredients, to ensure that there's more textures in your dish, to ensure that there's different flavors, right? That go against each other, right? Not go against each other, but are juxtaposed to one another, right? You want to try to make these things, the way that they are. So when we're talking about this is a very easy way to make a high-end dish, is to follow the very simple, very French way of making haute cuisine, which is a protein, a bed or a side, and a sauce. And this kills it, right? One of my favorites to make is salmon with asparagus and lemon and citrus tarragon beurre blanc. This is a wonderful dish, and it'll impress anybody that eats it, and it's not hard to do. So we could talk about that. Another one that I use with the beurre blanc is a scallop over a pureed parsnips. That's another really good one. We could talk about that. And then most importantly, when you're getting started in your kitchen to make high-end culinary stuff, you want to have a flow, a function in your kitchen that gives you the ingredients necessary to make high-end stuff. To make your own stock is a big deal. The stock you make at home is going to be better than anything. Now, you could go to the store and you get one of them cartons that has the stock, organic stock or low sodium stock or whatever, and that stuff's pretty good. It's not bad. It'll work. But this stuff you make at home is going to be 10 times better. So you want to have a stock pot, and it also saves you money. You want to save money in your kitchen. You want to reuse ingredients. You want to reuse leftovers. You want to use waste. You want to waste as little as possible. So gather your excess stuff that you get from chopping vegetables, your onion peels, your onion ends, your celery stuff, your bits of carrot, all of this stuff, and you want to put it in a pot with a chicken carcass, with beef bones, with turkey carcass, whatever you got, whatever kind of carcass you got. Don't mix the carcasses though. You gotta have one type. And you boil that forever. You make your bone broth or your stock or whatever you want to call it. And I separate the difference between bone broth is just bones, and then stock has the other stuff into it. And it also has herbs and various other things. So you want to throw that together, make your stock, can it, and keep that. That's huge. That's huge. When you make gravies, which, here in the United States, we love gravy. I make gravy all the time.
Fuck yeah, of course.
Hell yeah. When you make gravy, that homemade stock is going to take you to the next level. And with your gravy, you go look it up. There's these like Gravy Master and gravy packets and cornstarch slurry. And cornstarch slurry is important for certain things. You can use that. Like, for example, when I make my homemade Salisbury steaks, I use a cornstarch slurry because, it's easier than making a roux. So there's a couple things you need to know at the base of foundational culinary technique. One of them is you need to know your mirepoix. Your mirepoix is going to be like is generally carrots, celery, and onions, right? You need to know that you need to cook your onions down all the way first. They need to be translucent before you add the other ingredients, because raw onions in a dish sucks. Another thing you need to know is how to make roux. Roux is hugely important. You could do a lot with roux, right? Roux is the base for any stews and soups, gravy, sauces, everything. And this was the invention of, we mentioned, Marie Antoine Carême. This guy, I don't know if he created it, but he started it, right? You melt your butter, you add your flour. You can look up the ratios. I eyeball it, right? Because I've made it so many times. Because there's certain times I want a looser roux. There's other times I want a clumpier roux. And, depending on how much roux you need, you slowly add your liquid, right? If you're making a bechamel, which is cream sauce, you slowly add your cream or your milk to the roux, and it should be room temperature. And you slowly add it and mix it over time, and it becomes thicker, and then you have a cream sauce. And then to this, you could add cheese. It become Alfredo. I don't like Alfredo because I think it's crap, but you could make your cheese sauce. I use this for cheese sauce when I'm making cheese steaks or whatever. You could do this. This is the base for your gravy. This is the base for just about any kind of sauce that you can think of. So I'm sorry, Mike. How am I going on and on? You go ahead.
No. That's cool. Actually, I was not familiar with that word, but I've done this so many fucking times that it's just part of my process with like a variety of dishes, like exactly what you're talking about, which is like you get the butter, it gets melted, you chuck in some flour, you get this sort of like pasty stuff that's like bubbling away, and then you add some liquid to it, and it becomes whatever base that you want, like bechamel or like a cheese sauce, like you say, or like all these a variety of or gravy, variety of different things. I didn't know the word roux, but that obviously is the same thing. But yeah, no, it's really important to like have these sort of like basic things down. What was it you were talking about before that?
A mirepoix.
Before that one, what was that? There was something I was going to say about it. Anyway, there's just so many important like culinary techniques that are like, it's just something that you learn along the way kind of thing. Like you have to sort of just like get into it and like start doing it and making mistakes and writing things down and everything. So,
another thing I would mention is knife technique, right? Knife technique is huge because not only does it make your dish look nicer, it ensures that all the ingredients cook at an even rate, right? I'm sure you guys out there made mashed potatoes before. You get some little bits of potato and you get some big bits. And then when you go to whip it or mash it or whatever you're doing, you get some big chunks in there that won't break up. That's because you didn't cut them all the same. They didn't cook at the same rate. And when you look at your knife techniques, you got a few, right? You got your brunoise, you got your julienne, you got your large dice, your mince, your small dice, your confetti, et cetera, et cetera. Learn your knife techniques, right?
Yeah.
This will save you. It saves you time. It makes your dish look better. It makes it cook better. Everything, man. Nobody wants to be eating something and there's a big hard piece of carrot or big hard piece of onion or big hard piece of anything. Nobody wants that. You want everything to be mouth sized. You want everything to be small. And you want everything to cook evenly.
Yeah, cutting an onion is something that, like, you know, just look that up. Look it up on YouTube. It'll save you a ton of time and everything. I remember what it was that I wanted to say that you were talking about was when you were talking about stocks. This is, you know, in addition to like making your own spices and homemade stock and everything, using stock as a salty ingredient in your cooking is maybe the simplest way to like just kick all of your shit up several notches rather than just putting salt in everything. Because I mean, salt is important. Like most beginner chefs, they undersalt things and then they wonder why it doesn't taste very flavorful and everything. Salt is a flavor enhancer like sugar. It makes everything, it brings out flavors and everything. But using a stock, now this doesn't work for everything, but in a lot of stuff, if you use a stock as your salty ingredient, what it's going to do is it's going to give you a much, much richer flavor. Now you got to choose the right stock. It can't be like, you know, a mushroom stock in, you know, something that doesn't make any sense for that. But using like, you know, the right stock, chicken stock, beef stock, vegetable stock, whatever it happens to be, using that as your salty ingredient is going to make your dishes just like pop instantly. It's just going to be so much better, right? Like, and I've never made my own. This is something I should probably do because, you know, I use a lot of powdered ingredients. I use a lot of like, you know, stocks that you buy like in a jar or like, you know, powdered stock and everything. It works well enough. The liquid stock is much better. So if I want to make like a really awesome gravy, I'll use that or whatever. But you know, I just know from experience of having made a lot of homemade stuff, you know, what it is that I do make homemade. I mean, all my meals are homemade, but like the something like a curry base, for example, or like a curry powder. If I do that myself, it turns out so much better. So I'm sure it'll do that for stocks as well. But I just wanted to say that like this is an easy way for you to make your stuff taste a lot better, sort of like straight away, is just using that. It'll add a complexity, it'll add a depth to everything that's just not quite there when you just use table salt.
Yeah, the type of salt you use is huge, right? It really is. You know, it's the biggest seasoning that you're going to use across the board. So why not make sure you have good salt? So another thing is if you're tasting your sauce, your soup or whatever you're making, it tastes a little flat, it might need acid, right? Salt and acid are what bring out flavors. Yeah. So obviously, if you're doing something that has dairy in it, you don't want to add lemon juice, right? You don't want to add too much acid to that. But you could do things like lemon zest that will give it that sort of zing to it, right? So back to, here's another big thing with knives is there are so many piece of shit knives out there, knife companies that just sell garbage. what we use in the kitchen, in the industry, we use Wusthof, we use the German knives, Wusthof Henkels, and I personally like, it's a Swiss company, it's been around forever and ever. They made Swiss Army knives, is Victorinox. Victorinox are my favorite because you could get them for cheap. They're not as fancy looking. A lot of time, I like the ones that have the plastic handle, like the entry level ones. You get one for $50. They stay sharp. You can sharpen them over and over again. You could abuse them, and if you lose it or something happens to it, it's not a big deal because it only costs $50, right? You can go high end with the Japanese knives. I don't like Japanese knives because I think that they're too fragile. They are very, very sharp, but you can go check them out. Like, I guess Shen is one that I saw guys use a lot. I am very, very partial to the German knives, Victorinox off at Henkel's. I prefer Victorinox because I'm a big guy. I got big palms. I need a bigger handle. The Wusthof handles are small and they give me blisters. So I like the other knives better. Yeah. But Wusthof, if you're not a human bear, right, and you have normal size hands, it'll be fine, right? So those things, the knife brand that you use and you keep in your kitchen, spend the money on a nice set of knives, man. It's gonna kitchen tools, things like kitchen shears, things like just make sure you have all your stuff, dude. There are so many like things that you can do. I have a fryer. I have a little baby fryer that I keep next to my stove so I can fry elements and put some crispy stuff in whatever I'm cooking. If I'm cooking that, you know what I mean? It's a big deal. And here's another thing that I want to point out. Know when to pull off your protein. Your protein is just the star of every dish, right? You got these, and we're going to talk about, and there's an example of it in Italian cooking and Italian American cooking, these Marigons, they'll like make, they'll make a gravy and there's no damn meat in it, or there's very little meat. Star of a gravy, the star of Italian American sauce is the meat. You want your braciole in there. You want your sausages in there. You want your meatballs in there. You want that in there, right? That is the star. The pasta is the side. You know what I mean? So it's not
the vehicle for all of that, right?
Exactly.
Like the sauce and the meat, or the sauce and the protein, whatever it is, the sort of interface between the dynamic between those is what's going on. Like the pasta is just there to convey it. You know what I mean? And I wanted to sort of to barge in there, but I just wanted to say about the knife. Yes, absolutely invest in a good one, but also keep it sharp. This is super important. I think you might have mentioned this before, but it's super important. Sharpen it after every use, unless you're just like, cooking something super soft or you're cutting something super soft. Keep it sharp. This is super important because it will do all the work. You'll be able to cut things much faster. It's less fucking dangerous. A dull knife is very, very dangerous. But you do need to have your tools, right? Like you need to have the right tools. And for guys who are just getting into it, it's not always clear what you need. Obviously, you need pots and pans. You need like dinnerware and everything like that. But, one tool that I use all the time, every single day, like it's always going into the dishwasher at the end of the day, every single fucking day, is the spatula. That thing is like... That is my Swiss Army knife. I use it for everything. I make a lot of shit like stir fries and curries and things like that need to be like stirred constantly at high heat and things. So it's really important. And I use one that's actually what's the shit called that it's made of? It escapes me, but it's just very flexible material that like sort of conforms to the shape of the vessel. So it's very good for scraping and everything. Get yourself a heat distribution mat. Well, it depends. Dave, do you have like a gas stove or do you use like an induction or what? Like what kind of a stovetop have you got?
Unfortunately, I have an electric stove.
Okay. So this is not something...
gas stove, so...
Yeah, absolutely. You would like this. You wouldn't need this for for an electric stove, but if you have a gas stove, absolutely get yourself a heat distribution mat. Like what this is, it's basically like a chunk of metal that you put on over the flame, because the flame never is going to like cover the entire bottom of the pan. And what it does is it does what you think it would. It distributes the heat all the way across the pan, right? So a lot of what I do, a lot of the stuff that I make is kind of like simmered or slow cooked over hours, or an hour and things like that. And if you put that, if you do that in a pot that isn't like a super high end pot that's like nonstick or whatever, if you do this for like an hour and a half on a gas stove, you're going to end up with a bunch of fucking char on the bottom, because it's going to be hot in the middle, cold at the edges. So the heat distribution, Matt, is crucial for that. Another thing I would say, cast iron shit fucking rules. This is awesome stuff. It's heavy. It gets seasoned. It's durable. It's you don't need a fucking heat distribution mat for cast iron, right? Oh, yeah. Because the whole pan gets hot. You need to have like an oven mitt to grab the handle, right? And it's just great. And you can put it in the oven too, right? So you can you can make skillets. You can do fajitas and all kinds of great stuff with the cast iron stuff. And speaking of cooking over a long period of time, get a slow cooker. If you are, this is another sort of like entry level tip, I would say. If you're just someone who like wants to eat better and cheaper and everything, but you don't have a lot of time to invest, get a decent slow cooker recipe book and a slow cooker itself. This is the cheapest, easiest, quickest, and quickest as in less prep, and tastiest way to eat well. And it's if you have a fair bit of freezer space and a slow cooker, you're going to spend very little time and very little money cooking, and you're going to eat really, really well. I love slow cooked meals like stews and curries and jambalayas and all kinds of stuff like that. It's so fucking awesome. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you kind of need if you want to do it seriously. I'm not going to list all the equipment that you need, but I think some of what I've listed there is some of the essentials that like guys don't always think of straight away.
Mm-hmm. Recently I got an Instapot, one of them, the pressure cookers. Let me tell you, that thing, don't beat me up. The thing's great. I mean, the thing is great. It works. I made, because sometimes it's like, I'm cooking for a lot of people. So I need an easy way that I could just whip something up and on the side, and I have more space on the stove top to make.
Bro, there's no shame in that kind of shit. I've got an air fryer within the last year. Let me tell you, man, I use that shit all the time. Like I make a mac and cheese for my kids. Like a lot of the shit I make is like it has to like appeal to like young children. So I am making some crazy shit for myself and the missus sometimes, but for the most part, it's got to appeal to like kids under 10 or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I make a mac and cheese that's got this really nice crispy breadcrumb topping on the top. Mm. But I also make up like piles of it. Like we're eating the shit for 3 days, right? And when you put that in the fridge, that gets soggy. So the breadcrumb loses this like nice crispiness or whatever. So what's the solution? Well, the solution for me is I'll cut a chunk of it and put it into a bowl and then zap it in the microwave for 30 seconds just to kind of heat it all the way through a little bit. And then I'll throw it into the air fryer and I'll fry it up and it comes out crispy and golden and amazing every fucking time. Mm. So this is another great tool as well. I mean, a lot of people sort of think it's kind of like, well, whatever. It's for like making chicken nuggets and things. It's great for that too, but you can do a lot of shit with it. Like, I have air fryer cookbooks, and there's some pretty decent recipes for that.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I use the air fryer quite a bit too, but mac and cheese. That's actually one of my dishes that people really like. I make a good mac and cheese. Mm. I do a baked mac and cheese. I can do a stovetop too, but baked mac and cheese. I make the cheese sauce.
It's got to be baked. It's got to be baked.
It's got to be baked. But if you want to do a quick one, you could do it on the stovetop. If you got a good cheese sauce, you could like pour that shit on your pair of shoes. It'll be delicious, right?
Yeah.
But I just make my macaronis. I make my cheese sauce. Starts with a bechamel. Cooper cheese is the biggest cheese that I use, but I also throw in some provolone and pepper jack. And I go to the store, and there are these things. Here's another cheap thing. Things like meat ends and cheese ends. You can get that stuff at the butcher, and it's like, it's the cheese. It's just like chunks of cheese that fall off that are at the end of when they slice or whatever. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's still cheese, and they sell it for like real cheap. So you get a big bag of just random cheese chunks from random different types of cheese. Throw that shit in there, and pour it all over your macaronis. Add your topping. I like to do seasoned breadcrumbs with. I crush up potato chips, and then I put crispy bacon bits on top of all of it, and I put more cheese on, and then more cheese on top, and you bake it. And the big part about baked mac and cheese is letting it cool so it solidifies. Yeah. And here's something we do. This is not good for you, but it's like my family loves this. Is the next day after you have your leftover mac and cheese, we make mac and cheese steak. So I take shredded steak, like chip steak. I fry it up with onions, right? I make the cooked onions, sauteed onions, the cheese steak, and I throw it on the heated up mac and cheese, and we pour more cheese sauce all over all of it. So it's terrible for you, but the family loves it. It's so good.
Fuck, of course, yeah. No, that sounds amazing, actually. Another thing that I would recommend for people, and it sounds obvious, like some of this shit sounds kind of obvious, but like it's important, is to get yourself a good size freezer. If you're making, especially if you're making stuff like slow cooked meals, or if you're making sauces and things, there's a lot of stuff. Like if you make stuff in batches, and if you really sort of like, I'm the one that does like the grocery shopping in the house because I make the food. So I'm constantly on the lookout for like sales and stuff. So I'll go to the grocery store. And the one that I go to is really cool because at the end of each row, it's like they've got all their sale shit at the end of each row. So I'll just like go and just like look at what's at the end of each of the rows. And like today, I bought like like several kilograms of what the fuck's it called? The pasta with like the little ravioli, like little pocket pasta things, right? I don't make my own pasta. I just buy the store-bought shit. But it was like 2/3 off, right? So, if you got a lot of freezer space, that's a lot of space that that's a lot of money that you can save over like a long period of time. So,
making your own pasta is such a bitch. It's such a bitch.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll do it. I can do it, but I just don't want to.
I've never really had the urge to try or whatever. I mean, maybe I'm probably soon, actually, because the wife has been asking me to give it a shot. But anyway, if you get a freezer and you look for shit that's on sale, and you can freeze meat for a long period of time, some meat that you don't really want to do that with, but a lot of it's fine, like a good chuck steak or whatever. You can just like you can unfreeze that and everything. It's important, and it'll save you like tons of money, and it just makes it so much easier. This is I mean, not only do you want to eat well, right? Which you will if you learn how to cook a little bit, but you also want to save fucking time, right? Like a lot of people feel like if they learn to cook, it means that they're going to have to spend an hour a day on this stuff. And if you're making like an individual meal, like individual serving, or just enough for the family for one day, it's going to take a lot of time. But if you make stuff in batches and things like that, then it's like it's not as much work as it seems, right? Like probably like my freezer out in the garage is just. A few weeks ago, it was just so full that I couldn't get anything more into it. So I, made the concerted effort basically to eat the leftovers, right? Because I don't know, for some reason, I just always feel like I got to stock up. So, for the last few weeks, it's like, man, like dinners take me like 5 minutes, right? So, on some nights.
Mm-hmm.
So it does actually save you time in the long run. I mean, maybe if you're ordering pizza every day, it's not going to be able to compete with that. But you know, how much is that going to fucking cost? So yeah, the freezer is super important. And one other thing that you mentioned, Dave, that I think is really important is having a flow, having having a procedure, in your kitchen, right? Like prep is super important. Like with my recipes, basically like each recipe that I have has like the first stage is get the ingredients. Here are all the ingredients, get them all out on the counter. The second stage is prep. So you've got to like, you know, basically get everything ready to go into the pan or whatever. And then the third stage is the method where you're like actually doing stuff and cooking things. But like if you sort of like, you know, if you don't measure out all your spices before and everything, like a lot of what I cook a lot of curries and a lot of like Asian stuff. I just like that. So these are dishes where depending on how you cook it, like you've got to get a lot of different ingredients into the pan very quickly. So you don't have time to like grab a teaspoon and like be dunking it in 12 different spice jars and everything. You've just got to kind of like, you know, get your masala ready and then like, you know, get your coriander chopped up and all that. If you have the prep done, then the dish comes together very quickly and you're not sort of like prepping things as you go, because that's a fucking nightmare, right? So if you have a flow, if you have a procedure, if you have a system, then things come together fairly quickly and you can actually do some really cool stuff in the kitchen with that.
Hell yeah, absolutely. So there's a few dishes that I wanted to, because we're coming on an hour, that I wanted to throw out there. I wanted to give to guys that maybe are you know, looking to up their game, right? There's a few dishes that are really fancy. Now, obviously, you can go on. You could look up a lasagna. You can look up how to do baked mac and cheese, how to do, you know, chicken, et cetera, et cetera. But there are, I mentioned before about the very traditional French way of setting up a plate, which is your side, your protein, and your sauce, right? Go look up, learn the mother sauces. You got your velouté, you got your tomato, you got your, they call it espagnole, you got your bechamel, right? Go look it up. It's not hard. Just go check it out. So here's one that I do. So you could do that. Like say you if you could nail a good gravy or a good velouté. A velouté is like, you know, it's like a gravy, but you could also like finish it with a little bit of cream to give it a different kind of flavor and texture, make it more silky. If you do that, you know, dude, let me tell you, all you got to do is say you fry up like a veal cutlet or a pork chop or just whatever kind of meat, and you get your velouté on there. Right. Let me tell you, man, it's next level. It's next level. I make a pork velouté with the balsamic vinegar and rosemary, and it's wonderful, man. It's really good. One of my the dishes that my family loves is like I mentioned, the salmon with the beurre blanc, right? Beurre blanc just means blanc means white and beurre means butter. So it's literally a butter sauce. So what you do, you take your they're not onions. What are they? What's the other type of the thing that's kind of like an onion? It's like halfway between onion and garlic. It's like just left behind.
Shallot, maybe?
Shallot. You take your shallots, you mince them up, you cook them down in some white wine, right? White wine. You let that cook, everything boil, and then you slowly add chunks of butter, like a ton of butter. We're talking sometimes like a pound of butter. You add them chunks and you whisk them and you let them melt one at a time, very slowly. You whisk the whole time, because if you stop whisking, it's going to break and it's trash. You don't want it to be trash. And also with this sauce, it does it. You can't keep it. Once it cools and you can't put it in the refrigerator, you can't do it again. It's only good for this one time, so don't make too much. You whisk in your butter and all that stuff. Your butter, you got your white wine, your shallots in there, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, some fresh lemon juice. If you got the stuff in the bottle, the squeezy thing, that's okay. Fresh is always better. You add a little bit, and then you add a palmful of dried tarragon. Let me tell you, the dried tarragon is powerful stuff. It will, if you add too much, it will overpower the dish. So add a little bit, taste it, see where it's at. Whatever. I should probably give you measurements, but I don't measure because I'm a jerk off. But you know, you do it like that. Take it off the heat, whisk until it cools. You stop whisking, it will break. So you put that to the side, you whisk until it cools, and then you got your beurre blanc sauce. This is it's kind of a bitter, pungent, but also creamy and sweet sauce, and you can finish with cream. You can add a little cream at the end on the sauce. Your salmon, dude, all you need for salmon is salt and pepper and know when to pull it off, right? If you're doing it in a pan, have your I like to use lard. Here's another thing. Get the fuck away from these seed oils. I know that's a meme or whatever, but it's legit. The only oils and fats you want to use to cook with, olive oil, lard, beef tallow, coconut oil. Outside of that, fuck everything else. Don't touch anything else.
I'm gonna stand sesame oil for a moment, but that's kind of an Asian thing. It has its own flavor.
I've tried. I mean, I do a little bit of Asian stuff here. I don't know shit about Asian cooking, so I'm not gonna, whatever.
That it really is a flavor ingredient. It's not really. It's a finishing oil, right? It's not really there for your, like, when you do a stir fry, you're going to use another oil, and then you're going to add sesame later. Anyway.
Exactly. And in your fryer, let me tell you, dude, lard is not that expensive, and lard will keep much longer than your like peanut oil or whatever you put in your fryer. Dude, you can get those big chunks of those big like rectangles of lard for pretty cheap, couple bucks, and then like three or four of them will fill up your whole fryer. You've got one of them mini fryers, and then you got lard that you're cooking your stuff in. It's better for you. It tastes way better. It's just better, right? So if you're doing a pan fry, I like to leave the skin on the salmon. I like the crispy skin, but you got to score it, which means you got to put little slices in it or it's going to curl. You start with the skin down, right? In your pan. Obviously a grill, if you got a grill, like one of those grill tops to put on your stove, or if you got a grill outside, whatever, I like that better. I'm a charcoal guy. I like that better. But if you're pan frying salmon is fine. Get it in your pan. You want that skin to be crispy. You wait till it's hot. Get in there hot as hell. When it crackles when you put it in, you're doing it right. Salt and pepper, that's all you need. But don't go nuts with it, but definitely liberal with the salt and pepper. Flip it till it's done. And dude, salmon must be like, if it's too far past medium, then it's not good, dude. It'll be too dry. You want medium mid-rare for your salmon. Take that out. I like asparagus. With asparagus, make sure you break off those stalks, man. Those woody stalks are disgusting. Get that shit off of there. You can't even eat them. They get stuck in your teeth. They're nasty. Break them off, sometimes halfway. Take the whole bunch in your hand, move your other hand up halfway from the stalks, break it in half. Take them asparagus, cook them in the pan with lemon juice and garlic and everything. Get that cooked up. It's okay if they're a little bit wilted or they're a little bit overdone. I love the overdone asparagus. I think it's wonderful. You can also bake it and it's fine. Lay your asparagus down. Put your salmon over top the asparagus so it kind of like it sits on an angle. Pour your cooled beurre blanc sauce all over it, and let me tell you, the people you're gonna blow their minds. Next level. This is kind of stuff you would pay $30, $40 for that dish in a restaurant.
Yeah, there's a couple that I do that I consider to be like restaurant quality. The main one that I think is the best is the pizza recipe that I put into the show notes on the pizza episode. I hope somebody tried that. I didn't have anybody get back to me and tell me. But anyway, yeah, it can seem a bit overwhelming. Like I think for guys who are like still at the ramen noodles level listening to this episode, they're going to be like, it's just going to be this barrage, this like machine gun barrage of like random tips and stuff like that for like making food that just seems overwhelming. The thing is, like, it's like anything. You get a feel for it. You get the practical insight of just having done it, right? Like, you know, it's like we say in the scene that there's too much debate and there's not enough actual like people doing IRL shit, right? It's like you have to do it. You have to like engage in the practice. You have to. It's an orthopraxic thing. Cooking, right? Like you get a feel for it by doing it, right? It's about doing a lot of little things right, and this is kind of what we're getting at here with like, you know, these tips here and there for different things, right? Like if you look at that pizza recipe that I put in there, it's very long and complicated, and there's a lot of stuff that you need to do. But that just is. I mean, there's some things that like there's some recipes that you can make that are very simple and very good. I posted one on Twitter recently. It's just this. It's a 4-ingredient pasta sauce, and it's so fucking good. It's just this rich, beautiful tomato sauce that like I cook it up for about 40 minutes or so, but like it takes me 2 minutes to get it into the pot, and then like I'm just leaving it for a while. It's a very low investment, very easy thing to do, but the result is amazing. Some dishes are like that, but some of them are a little bit more complicated, but it is about doing a lot of little things right. And this is especially true when you're talking about curries and things like that. But so it could seem a little bit overwhelming. But another thing that I wanted to suggest here as a sort of like meta level tip, something that you can do that I've discovered, is you can mog HelloFresh. Do you guys have HelloFresh in the States? Sometimes I don't know what the brands are. Do you know what that is, Dave?
Is that the service that like sends you produce or something?
Yeah. So it's like marketed as like for people who are busy and don't have time to, you know, do a lot of cooking, but like don't want to eat out every night. It's like HelloFresh has some dope ass recipes. They are actually like, this is their selling point, is that the recipes are very good. But the problem with their service is that each of the recipes is too complicated to really be worth the money, because what they do is they basically just deliver you ingredients and give you a recipe, and then you go at it, right? And the idea is that you don't have to go shopping, and you know, a lot of stuff's done for you, and you can just like, you know, cook something in like half an hour or whatever. It never turns out that way. It always takes way the fuck too long, like for what you would expect anyway. But what I would suggest, because the recipes are very, very good, is order a bunch of them, and then like that you like or that look nice or whatever, and then keep the recipe cards, right? They give you the recipe cards. Basically, all you have to do is substitute the spice packs and the sauces that they give you. Those are the only things that like you're not quite sure what's in them, which you can do pretty easily once you know what you're doing a little bit. Like, you know, I said earlier about how one of the first things you should be doing is like making up your own like chili powder and taco seasoning and things. Once you know what you're doing with like, you know, making up masalas and spice mixes, then, you know, I mean, I can order from HelloFresh and get a recipe, and it's just like, you know, all American spice or whatever, and you don't know what the fuck's in it. And then, you know, I just like take a little bit of it and taste it, and I'm like, okay, I can tell you probably what's in there. Once you can do that, if you can order these HelloFresh meals, and you've just got like some really dope ass recipes that are just basically like right there for you. Because what I've found is like when you go and you try a recipe that like you found on the internet or even in a cookbook, right? They almost never work out that well the first time. I don't know why this is. I have found with every recipe, and this is why I say write it down, is that I have to adjust them over a long period of trial and error to get them to be right. Sometimes the recipes like just fucking fail because I don't know. It's like no one has ever tried them before publishing them, right? Even in professional cookbooks, sometimes the recipes don't work out very well. Like they just like end up being shitty, but you can tell that like there's something there, and you just need to like add more of this and cook it for less time and like, you know, whatever. So yeah, anyway, if you get the recipe cards from HelloFresh, that's some good stuff. But But it's practice, right? You just need to actually do it. And then once you've been doing it for a year, 2 years, 5 years, you'll have this like library of like amazing recipes so that you're just like eating well every single day and it's not costing you very much. It's so fucking good. I understand guys are busy, but like it'll improve the quality of your life so much.
Yeah, absolutely, man. There's if you follow, like I mentioned before, the protein with the side, or like let's say you do a bed of something. For example, some fancy places will do a quinoa or something like that, right? Or a mashed potatoes. Let me tell you, if you know how to make a dope mashed potatoes, do a nice seared chicken breast, and then your gravy on top with some vegetables. Dude, you can't beat that. A roast, right? Roasts are wonderful. Get a big chunk of roast. And here's Mike was talking about earlier. This is a good point about going and looking for deals on protein. One of the things that I do, if you go in the morning or in the evening, if you go back to say like the butcher spot, the meat department, or the seafood department, you will find, like, I don't know what it might be called in your area or your country, but where I'm at, they call it like manager's special. Stuff that's sort of about to go bad. It's still good, but it's getting close to its expiration date. Buy that stuff up. I've gotten whole salmons. I've gotten swordfish steaks. I've gotten Delmonico's. I've gotten filet mignons. Whatever you get, I've gotten it for like dollars. You know what I mean? Yeah. I got filet mignons one time. It was like a pack of 4 of them, like 4 big ass filet mignons. I got it for like $5. I was like, it's like awesome. It's like $60. I got it for $5 because it's going to go bad in 2 days. And another thing they do, here's the thing: when these meats sit in under that fluorescent light for too long, it starts making them look a little greens, a little oxidizing or whatever they call that. Dude, that's still good. Once you cook that, nobody sees that. There's nothing wrong with that. Every restaurant you ever go to cooks that and never tells anybody because there's nothing wrong with it. In the grocery store, they throw that out or they try to sell it cheap. I've seen people walk up, pick up, they look at the manager's special steak with a big, beautiful steak, and they're like, it'll be like $3, and they put it down because it's got that little bit of green color on it. Dude, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Go home, put it in the freezer, or just cook it right away. It'll be delicious. You won't know anything. It's fine. Another
this
thing.
Is serious. Sorry, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say another thing, things like scallops and certain seafoods, right? The moment they start smelling a little funny, stores will just get rid of it because they know if the customer opens it and they smell anything, this isn't fresh. Let me tell you something. Seafood goes pretty quick. And usually when it is starting to smell a little bit, now if you open it, it smells like death. No way, don't eat that. But something like a scallop or shrimp or other types of seafood, if you open it and it smells a little funky, rinse it with hot water. Or warm water and clean it off and dry it and then smell it. And it'll probably smell good and it's fine to eat. It's not bad. It's just starting to get a little weird.
Yeah, it's important to economize like this, and it's not just about saving money. It's also about food security too, right, for your family. Because I mean, a lot of what we've been talking about in this episode so far has been pretty kosher. A normie could agree with all of it, but we as nationalists understand what the fuck's going on in the world in terms of these people want to fuck with our food supply, right? This is something the raw egg nationalist is very strong on, right? I have seen in the last year, the price of food and especially of meat where I live go up by probably 15% in one fucking year. This trend is going to continue. They don't want you to eat meat. It raises your testosterone. It allows you to pack on muscle. It does a lot of things for you that they do not want, right? They want you eating, bug shit and soy. Actually, I love soy, but anyway, I love tofu anyway.
Do you?
They want, Yeah, well, you got to get the right shit, man. You got to learn how to cook it, right? Like tofu is just a blank vehicle for a spice or a sauce.
Just use like a mushroom or something.
And I love that too, man. It depends what you're going for. I mean, the mushroom's not going to have a whole lot of protein in it. Tofu is actually pretty high in protein, and from what I've seen, I mean, I haven't like gone in depth with it or anything like that. I think the like soy, estrogenates you or whatever is actually kind of a meme or whatever. I don't eat a lot of tofu, but I do enjoy it now and again. But what I'm getting at is that protein, and especially meat, is going to become harder and harder for you to get. So you really need to get that fucking freezer, man. Like it's important. Get out there, go shopping, get deals, stockpile meat. You're going to be glad that you did, especially if there's another COVID lockdown or whatever the fuck, like there obviously is going to be at some point. Or the, whatever it is, like war in some far-flung country, that it's all going to fuck with your food security. So that's really important, like that guys do that. We've got like, a small freezer under our fridge and a large freezer in the garage, and I'm thinking about getting another one, right? So this cannot be overemphasized, but for the purposes of not being repetitious and irritating, I'll stop talking about it.
And you guys in Australia, you have year-round growing season, right?
For a lot of things. Yeah, definitely.
So you could just like run a garden all the time.
And yeah, I basically do, right? Like, I've got like my spring onions, like, we've got like a garden, like a raised garden bed that goes all the way along like one side of like quite a long fence. And it's got all kinds of stuff in it. We got blueberry bushes. We've got like aromatics. We've got tomatoes, all kinds of shit, right? Like, and San Marzano, we talked about this in the pizza episode, but San Marzano tomatoes are hard to come by here. You basically have to buy them in industrial quantities. So that's why I grow that shit, right? Like there's and all kinds of stuff, so like herbs and aromatics and like rare things that are hard to get, and chilies and all that. You should be having a at least some of that stuff. Just get your like rosemary, sage, and thyme, and mint, and like these other like basil and oregano and all these sort of like basic spices. Grow them in a pot on your windowsill, at the very least, in your apartment. You can do that. This is something that you can do, and it's so good to have these fresh spices. You can dry them, you can use them fresh, whatever. It's important that you have that. But yeah, we do have like a very long growing season here, but at the same time, the sun is just so fucking overpowering that a lot of time it just kills a lot of stuff, unless it's like, in the shade part of the day or whatever.
You have good soil? Is it good soil there?
It's fucking garbage. It's sand. It's all sand, right? So the tomatoes here don't taste right. Every time I go back to Canada and I'm like making food, like, for my parents when I go back, the tomatoes are so much better. It's you can get some good plum tomatoes in the shops here. But if you get the Australian grown ones, like generally they're not exactly shit hot. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so there's just like so much stuff. Like guys, start with some decent 15-minute meals. There's some stuff that you can do, like from start to finish in 15 minutes. Work your way up to the ritzy titsy shit that we've been talking about, the more complicated stuff. One other thing that's going to kick your shit up several notches is cooking with alcohol, cooking with Guinness or red wine in your pasta sauces, or like rice wine in your stir fries. Like that is going to make everything. It imparts a complexity, a depth of flavor that is sort of like the next level of what I was talking about with like subbing stock for salt and things like that. This is what you want. Like, I mean, I don't know shit about like, culinary science or anything like that, but I do know kind of what works on a practical level. And what works on a practical level is a balance of many flavors. you know, and not like an even balance, right? Like you've got to have like your tangy, like citrusy flavors balanced with salt, balanced with umami, balanced with like bitterness and sweetness and everything like that. If you get that shit right, then it's just absolutely popping. And the alcohol gives it that sort of like depth. Like when I first tried using just a little bit of red wine in a pasta sauce, and like this is all 101 shit, right? Like, and anyone who's like an actual chef listening to what I'm talking about here is like, yeah, okay, so tell me something I don't know. But for guys who are just starting out, it's like adding a little bit of red wine into like your homemade pasta sauce. Just like, well, the first time I did that, I was like, holy shit. So this is what a Italian restaurant tastes like. You know, like it's just there's simple stuff that you can do to make it so much better. And that's like an example of one of them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Next to my stove at all times, I have a red wine, a white wine. In my fridge, I have beer that's specifically for cooking. Man, you get your wursts, your bratwurst, your bownwurst, or your liver, like whatever you're cooking, right? Whatever kind of sausage you're cooking that's not Italian sausage, man, you cook that in beer, it's next level. I'm telling you, that's fantastic. There's a lot of meats and stuff that even fish, that if you could do a beer batter, or you can just like let it chill and let it marinate in some beer with some seasoning. Here's another thing: when you do a roast, right? When you do like a roast bird, brining will like make your bird so much nicer. You do like a Cornish hen, you do like dude, let me tell you, I do deep fried Cornish hens. I brine them overnight and I deep fry them. It's crazy. It's craziness. You feel like it's really, really good if you guys have access to Cornish hens. Or it's a lot tougher to deep fry a turkey, right? A lot of people have turkey deep fryers or whatever. I don't have one. I don't use that. But you brine your turkey before you roast it. Let me tell you, next level. That surface white meat that a lot of times people it gets so dry, and sometimes it can get dry, will be delicious and juicy, and the salt from the brine goes all the way into the flesh, and it has flavor. I'm telling you, next level. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
For sure, man. Yeah, and while we're at it, sort of like, you know, talking, just giving like tips for like specific kinds of cooking and everything like that. I'll say a few words about Indian cooking, because I fucking love me some curry, dude. This is, I don't know. There's something. It's the Indo-European thing, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's why I love Indo-European shit, right? I just fucking cannot get enough Indian cooking. You know, I would eat it every single fucking day.
Really? I think it's weird, and it gives me diarrhea.
Yeah.
It makes me shit.
I love it, bro. I just can't get enough. So for anybody who does, and you know what though, it is the genre, the culinary genre, that has taken me the longest to master. I've been working on this shit for like 10 fucking years. And I would say only in the last year have I started to get what I would consider satisfactory results that are about as good as what I can order out, kind of thing. It is a very hard cuisine to master. I don't know why that is, but you know, some things that I have learned about it, you got to dry roast your spices. I mean, I've got like a shelf where in my pantry, where like half the shelf is just like a bunch of Indian spices, whole spices in jars, ready to roll. And the first step for a lot of these masalas, which is basically your spice mix, is to take the stuff, put it into like a little egg-sized pan, roll it around, and dry roast those spices. It's going to it's just going to make it pop so much better. Kind of takes away some of the rawness out of the spices. It is so fucking good. And there's sort of beyond that, there's like basically sort of like two approaches that I found really works. One is making up curries with a curry base, which is something that you have to make ahead of time. And basically what this involves is like chucking a whole huge like heap of vegetables into a pot with a fuckload of oil, and just letting it cook down and cook down and cook down and cook down, and then blitzing it in like a blender until it's just basically like it is sort of like halfway to being a curry already. But so you get that shit and then you freeze it and then you take it out. And what you do with the base is that you basically like you get your pan super, super, super fucking hot. And then you throw the base along with some spices into the pot in like small quantities. So you like take, maybe a quarter of a cup or half a cup of the base with some water and some spices. And then like you just cook it at screaming hot level. And that will, very quickly, it'll sort of boil off the water and everything. And then you add different elements like your meats, your aromatics, and your other things. And you just keep adding small amounts and small amounts and small amounts, and cooking at like super high hot level. And you can actually like, this is how they do it in restaurants. This is what, like when you order a curry and you get it in 7 minutes or 8 minutes, this is how they do it. It's very quick. You get really good results with it, but you have to have the right, the spice mix is absolutely key. If you don't get that right, it's not going to taste right. But this can be very good. Now, the opposite of that is the traditional method of cooking, not necessarily in a tandoor oven, but it's like a slow cook meal that you cook over the course of hours and whatever. And that can be excellent too. You really have to get it has to be done kind of in order, in the right order and everything like that. You have to get the right blend of elements, the tomatoes, the onions. Cooking onions in Indian cuisine is super, super, super important. They cook that shit down until it becomes like dark brown, right? And this is like over a course of like 45 minutes, and that's just the beginning, right? And it's there's so many small things that you need to do right with Indian cooking. This is why I found it so hard to master. Maybe it's just because I'm white. I don't know. But I've kind of got there now. But I love it, and it's kind of like the thing that you tackle a little bit later once you kind of got your chops together in the kitchen and everything. But it can be done. There are some good recipe books out there if anybody wants to know. Guys know where to find me. I can make some recommendations of books and shit like that. So
I'm not real big on the Indian stuff. Not real big on it. I think there's a couple dishes that I use a little bit of the curry powder you get at the store or whatever. But it's Indian and Asian stuff is it's just
not your taste, right?
No, it's like I tried the first time I tried it. I was at I was working as a custodian at a school, and they had this big religious thing for the Indians. It was in New Jersey, and they had their Indian food. And afterwards, they did their thing. They invited us in to have some food leftovers because they're just gonna take it home or whatever. So I tried some Indian food, and dude, some of the other guys that love it. Oh man, it's some of the best shit I ever had. I took a couple bites of some of this stuff, and I spit it into my napkin.
Yeah,
first time tasting it, I thought I was like, oh God, what is this? And I was kind of appalled by all the bright colors. I was like, is this even food? What?
Well, that's you probably, it sounds like you dove right into the deep end. You probably had traditional Indian cooking there, right? Versus what you would get at a restaurant, ordering a butter chicken or a tikka masala or a madras, these Western dishes, basically. It's the shit that it's what Bangladeshis who came to Britain in the 1970s cooked up as approximations of what white people would like of their native cooking. That kind of shit would have probably been a simpler way in for you, but probably going all the way. It's like going to Thailand and then sitting down at a table and you're just what is this monkey in the middle doing? And then they hack off the top of its skull and they take the brains out while it's alive and feed it to you. That experience would probably not make you want to eat more Thai food because it's a little bit too raw, a little bit too fucking real. But Yeah, maybe that's kind of where you were how you were introduced to Indian food. I don't know, because I think if I had been introduced to the real deal, like the shit that's like, these people are making in their own homes for themselves traditionally, in a tandoor and all that it might have been a little bit much for me. But I kind of had I was eased into it, so I think that kind of that's what got me there.
I just like things that are like certain types of culinary traditions that have too much seasoning. I'm not crazy about. I think that I like to taste the meat. You know what I mean? And a lot of these techniques were developed because these people couldn't get access to fresh meat. They would try to mask some of the rotten meat. Right. So it's I just, for example, I'm not, guys are going to get pissed. I don't think Southern food. I don't really like Southern food. I don't really like Indian food. The only Asian food I really like is the American stuff. I like a general, I'll have a general,
like a sweet and sour pork or General Tso or whatever.
Yeah, or a lo mein or
fuck, dude, I love that shit, man. There's nothing wrong with that. That's generally the kind of stuff that I make, because I mean, I'm feeding this shit to kids, right? They're not gonna accept a traditional Chinese meal, right? So,
and also here's the thing with a lot of dishes, authentic dishes from places like Asia and the Caribbean and Mesoamerica and the places like this, is they have fucking bones in it. They don't remove the bones. So you're eating rice and you take a bite of something hard, you got to just pick it out of your mouth, and that's how they eat it, right? The oxtail soup and shit, it's got fucking bones throughout it.
Yeah,
you got to pick
that's weird.
That's disgusting. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm spoiled by Escoffier's haute cuisine that is procured a certain way. Dude, pull the fucking bones. I'm paying for this. Pull the fucking bones out.
Yeah, and I feel the same way about the whole spices in Indian food. They will leave a whole fucking star anise in there, or bite into take a bite and be bite into a cardamom pod and just be I don't know. I pull the shit out when I make it myself, but I always find that a little bit sort of off-putting when it happens. Yeah.
What are some regions regional cuisines, no matter where in the world, that you would stack up in your top 3 or top 5? What are your favorites? I know you mentioned Indian.
Yeah, so Italian is there, Indian is there, Chinese, Japanese. I'm not big on French, to be honest. I mean,
really?
some of it's amazing, but it's just not. Maybe that it's kind of in the background of everything. It seems to me something that's a lot of it is very stock, if that makes any sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
What we're talking about with the sauces and everything, the mac and cheese, right? The base of mac and cheese is basically a kind of bechamel, right?
Yeah.
So, and I mean this is not French haute cuisine or whatever. But it is like I say, this is in the background. So maybe I do like French cuisine in that I just fucking British and European cuisine, right? And that's the base of everything. But yeah, I would say outside of Western Europe, or at least let's just say France and England, I would say, it's got to be Italian, it's got to be Indian, it's got to be Chinese. I love sushi and Japanese stuff. Not all of it, but I love a lot of it. What else? I don't like Thai. I definitely don't like Vietnamese.
Really? You don't like banh mi sandwiches and pho soup and all that?
I do like a good po. There was actually this one place that I lived near, a Vietnamese place back when I lived in Canada, the last city I lived in, that was really fucking good. And I used to just I would just go there at 3 a.m. and just sit down and just fucking chow down. But it has to be really high quality for me to like it. It was not something where I would just I would go out to a middle of the road Italian restaurant and just love it, you know. Not so with Vietnamese. What are some other ones? Like you say, Southern food, like, you know, I like it, but it's not like way up there. I like anything that's hot, anything that's spicy, anything that's going to make my eyes water. I love it. I just love that shit. So, you know, here I am sort of like browbeating Vietnamese, but I love sriracha sauce. That is a staple for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess those four, basically Indian, Italian, Chinese, and Japanese. That's what it would be for me. How about yourself?
Well, you know, for it kind of goes in. Yeah, my favorite food is probably it's hard to pick between Italian and German, right? Italian food. I grew up with Italian food. I grew up with Pennsylvania Dutch food. It's like those two are like tied for first with me, right? Pennsylvania Dutch food is very, very German. It's like a blend between German and like British food. Like when people say American McBurgers and talk about American, traditional American cuisine is very, very British. It's not that much different. If an Englishman comes to America and tries our food, he's gonna be like, wow, you guys cook kind of like we do. You know, we make the roast dinner, they call it. We make Salisbury steaks. We make food very similar to how they do. We use a lot of Worcestershire sauce. There's a lot of gravies, brown gravies, potatoes, and stuff like that. A lot of cabbage. I'd grown up in PA, a lot of sausage, pork, sauerkraut, pickled things. We call it couscous or hooswit, which is pickled vegetables. I love that shit, man. It's very Pennsylvania Dutch food is very sour and very sweet, and sometimes a little spicy. It's very strong flavors, things like which is you can get regular or sweet, and there's just tons of different like butchers around here that have their own Lebanon bologna, which is you just have to Google it. I can't really explain it. Things like pork roll, Taylor ham. You know, there's a lot of this stuff. Scrapple. There's a lot of different like food that you can't get anywhere else. It's just unique to this area. Things like Fosnots and kettle chips and et cetera, et cetera. I love PA food. I love the Italian American food. I love Italian food, but I grew up the Italian American food, man. I love, you know, you can't beat a Sunday gravy, bro. You can't beat it with the Holy Trinity, your sausage, your braciole, and your meatballs, dude. You slow cooked in your gravy, and then some pasta and some crusty Italian bread, the chewy kind. Dude, you just can't fucking beat that, bro. That is like one of the best foods worldwide. Pizza. We did a whole episode about pizza. You can't fuck with pizza, dude.
No.
You can take a pizza to Japan, to Mexico, to anywhere in the world, and they're gonna be like, this is the best shit ever. Right? Italian food, German food. I love your American staples, like I mentioned, your pot roast, your beef roast. Here in PA, we do a chicken pot pie, which folks, they're probably picturing an actual pie. We call that a meat pie. Chicken pot pie for us is a soup with these big gigantic pieces of dough, big noodles. I like some Slav food, obviously your pierogies. I'm a big pierogi guy. I like cold cut sandwiches. Now, as far as cultures, regions, I love food from New England. New England has wonderful, wonderful seafood. Their seafood chowders, their clam chowders, clam cakes, crab cakes, lobster rolls, lobster bisque. The stuff that they make up in New England, it's creamy and delicate and buttery and just wonderful. And it's fried and crispy, and it's New England food fucking rules. In my opinion, it's probably... If I wasn't from PA and like such a homer and like, you know, all this stuff, I was from somewhere else, I would probably say New England food is the best in the country. I fucking love it. It has a wonderful North Atlantic seafood, the lobsters and the crabs and the clams and the scallops, you know, French onion soup and all this kind of stuff. I love it. It's fantastic. I'm pretty critical of, I think Southern food is overhyped, but they have some staples that are just objectively fantastic. You can't get your sausage gravy with biscuits. I'm not a big biscuit guy. I think it's not as good as regular bread. But, dude, you give me sausage gravy on biscuits, it's really good. But the problem with the Southern food is it's all fucking fried. They fry everything.
Yeah.
I understand that, Italian American food, we pretty much just like, like a calzone is just like cheese in a football. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that we got some shitty food up here too that is comfort food, but like down there, I don't know. I'm not into fried tomatoes and like, and also you get into Creole and Cajun cooking. It's too much seasoning, dude. They got their seafood boiled.
I was gonna say I kind of like that actually. I kind of like that style. I like a lot of seasoning. So
I'm not the like andouille sausage and some of the sausages they use are just too. I don't know. I'm not crazy about it. It's like, I don't know. I just don't really like it. It upsets my stomach and gives me heartburn and stuff. Probably because I'm just not used to it. But I'm just not real crazy. But I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, I give shout out to those people that have those wonderful, unique culinary traditions. Me as a Pennsylvanian, as a Northerner, it's weird to my palate. My stomach can't handle it. I like a little bit of Mexican food. I think Mexican food's okay. I think it's overhyped. I think that the kings of culinary tradition worldwide are Italian, French, and German in that order, and then probably number 4 is Japanese. I think Japanese have the best Asian food. It's delicate. They don't do too much. It's just like it's very putting the flavors of the ingredients on display as is. Now, if you go to an American sushi place, they got all kinds of weird sriracha mayonnaise and eel sauce, and they put all kinds of bullshit on it. But your traditional Japanese food is like very as is. It's
very spare. Yeah, very minimalist. And it's great too. I guess this is, you're right. It some of it's very strongly flavored, like the green stuff, whatever it's called. I don't eat it, but it's very strong. Wasabi, yeah, it's very strong flavor. But generally they are more delicate flavors. So yeah, I guess for me, liking Japanese, that's a bit of an odd man out. But have you ever tried Korean barbecue? You ever gone to a Korean barbecue place?
Oh yeah, I do fuck with Korean barbecue.
Fuck yeah, dude, that is so good. I love that.
Another good one doesn't get mentioned: Brazilian steakhouses.
I've been to one many years ago when I was in Canada, and it was awesome. And I've just never gone back. Yeah.
It's crazy. I went there, and the only thing I didn't eat that was meat was I had some sort of like rice dish with potatoes in it or something. It was good, but it's like they come around, they just pile your plate with like meat.
They just cut it like straight off, like the rump or whatever, and it's just so fucking awesome.
Sausages, all kind. Another one I would mention. Just fucking slipped my mind. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Another one that I'm a big fan of that I haven't had in many years because there's just nothing great where I am is Middle Eastern food. I will fuck with some falafel any day. I'm not a big fan of shawarma, but of hummus. Oh my God. I will just like sit there and eat that shit all fucking day. I have 2 very good hummus recipes. Shish kebab, shish tawuk, baba ganoush. They've got this like wonderful, wonderful way of like, cooking rice and like beautiful spices with it and everything. Maybe it's just because there's like a super high quality restaurant in my hometown that I just got obsessed with. Every time I go back there, I have to go to this place. But I love that shit. Yeah. Middle Eastern, like, stuff from like Persian food, very similar, very good as well. It's got its own kind of it's got its own vibe. It's got its own flavor, its own set of flavors. They're really good. I wonder if you'd like it. You probably would. It's very, very meat heavy. So
yeah, I do actually have I make a nice falafel. I make a nice falafel. I'm a big fan of hummus. I don't know. Speaking actually, I like Greek food a lot. I'm a big fan of Greek food. I think Greek food is fantastic. It's an American Greek classic, and it's probably the stereotype. But dude, a dank gyro, dude, you can't beat it. I know it's pronounced gyro or whatever the fuck. I say gyro because I'm American. I'm not.
It's pronounced gyro.
It's pronounced
get over
gyro in America. I'm not saying it the other way. And I'm not saying pho soup or however it's called. It's faux soup. And I'll go to the restaurant and say it right to his face. I'll say gyro right to their faces because we're in fucking America, pussy. You don't tell me how I talk.
Yeah. You take that shit somewhere else.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a pretty dank gyro spot close to where my gym is. And I stop there once in a while. And they got baklava and like all kinds of great pastries, pavatitsa and like all this kind of stuff, man. Greek food gets slept on.
Fuck, now I'm hungry. What are we doing here? I'm gonna have to go out after. Gonna have to go out after this and fucking get some fucking shit. I don't know.
We're coming up on 2 hours, and I'm starving. I'm actually starving right now, so I'm gonna go fix up something to eat. Let's give the people one more recipe from us to give the boys a try.
All right, like right now or in the show notes?
Right now.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna give you a simple one. It's the one I put out on Twitter. Just because I'm not real great. Like I say, I write all the shit down and it's hard for me to kind of remember shit off the top of my head, but it's the simplest tomato sauce you'll ever make. But it's also really, really good. Basically what you do is you take, 2 normal size cans of canned tomatoes. It's gotta be plum tomatoes. Don't get the fucking, the diced tomatoes and shit like that. They got to be plum tomatoes all together. Throw that in with, I think it is 5 tablespoons of butter. So you throw that, two 400-gram cans of plum tomatoes into a pot with 5 tablespoons of butter, and take an onion, cut it in half. Cut the the root off of it or whatever, but keep the onion together. Don't dice it or anything at all. It's got to just be 2 halves. Throw it in there with the other 2, and then chuck in half a teaspoon of salt. That's it. Heat that up to a nice low simmer. Cook it for 30 minutes. Then throw away the onions and mash the tomatoes with a fork. And you're going to have this bright, very rich tomato sauce. You can use it as a base. You can throw some beef into that to get yourself like a nice, forget what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about. You can throw some red wine into it to give that complexity. And it is so good. This is a famous recipe, actually. I got it from a very, very traditional Italian cookbook. It's just called tomato sauce with onion and butter. And like you can get this in like New York restaurants with obviously they'll jazz it up a little bit, but this is the base for it. This is the best and simplest tomato sauce that you're gonna have. So I would say make that shit. You can make it tonight, and it's going to knock your socks off. So that would be the recipe from me.
All right, I'm going to give you guys a tradition from good old Pennsylvania, right? We're going to do the pork and kraut mashed taters. This is what you have every single New Year's. It gives you good luck. It's from the heart and soul of the Pennsylvania folk up here, and we make it all the time. We love it. It's one of our favorites. It's from the motherlands. So this is what you do. You got your big, what's that called? The Dutch oven, the big slow cooker that you put in the oven. You put it on top of the stove top. A little bit of oil in there, right? Or lard. I like a lard, right? Throw your lard in there. Onions, fresh garlic. Then you're going to want to add apples, right? Sliced apples. Throw that in there. Let that all cook. You're going to add your sauerkraut, right? Actually do this after you score your pork. You want to get a pork butt, right? A pork butt or a shoulder. Both are good. Season that shit the night before. Season it. Let that season. Rosemary, salt, pepper, all that good shit. Get that rubbed into that meat. Rub it in there. Sear it in the pot, right? Before you add that stuff that I was about to tell you. So you sear it on all sides, nice and crispy. Pull it out. You got to get your sausage, right? No Italian sausage. You got to get a pork sausage. I get a special sausage from the butcher that's down, a couple towns over. It's fantastic. I'm not going to tell you what it's called because then you can track it down and dox it. So fuck you. Find your own sausage. Good sausage from the butcher. None of this corpo garbage. I want you to buy sausage from some motherfucker that stuffed it in there with his hands, or you do it. Pork, salt, pepper in the stuff, right? So take your sausage, sear that, pull it out. Your ingredients that I just told you, your onions, your garlic, your apples, sear that, cook that all up. Throw in your kraut, right? Your sauerkraut. You can make it at home. You can get special kind. I like to get a special kind from a place nearby. It's really rough cuts, the big giant sauerkraut, or you can get it in the bag or whatever, whatever sauerkraut you have access to. Throw in your kraut. Cook it down, right? Sear it up a little bit. You're going to add a whole can of beer, Yingling Lager, bro. If you don't have Yingling Lager, then you can just use whatever kind of beer you got in your area. You get your Yingling Lager in there, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, palm full of brown sugar, salt, pepper. You could do bacon in there, but if you're going to do bacon, you got to sear it up in there, right? Plenty of fluid in there. Your beer and your apple cider vinegar and just all that stuff, right? You got to add a little water. It's okay. Put your pork and your sausage back in there, right? Get it. Make sure that the kraut is all covered, it all up, all that stuff in there, all mixed up, seasoned well, all that shit. Put it in the oven, 300, like 6 hours. Slow cook like 6 hours in there. Dude, the longer the better. It's going to be fine. Just make sure the sausages are under the liquid, though, because if they're on top, they're going to split, whatever. They're not going to be as good. You get them underneath there, they're going to turn into, it's going to be like when you get them sausages out, you can cut it with a fork. It's like a piece of cake. It's unbelievable. So after that's done, when that's cooking, when it's about to be done, you want to make your mashed taters. I do a whipped taters. I like the whipped taters. This is how I do it. You remember I told you about the large dice and your knife technique? You gotta make sure your taters are all the right size. I like a red skin potato because I don't gotta cut the skins off. But if you got regular taters, make sure you get the skin off because certain brown potatoes, Idaho potatoes, something like that, the skin isn't very good in it, right? So red skin potato, I like to chop it up as is and do it, throw it in there, make sure it's all the right size. Slow cook, salt your water. Don't not salt your water. There's no reason not to salt your water, whether you're boiling potatoes or you're doing pasta. Salt your water with everything that you do. So cook your potatoes down until they break open with a fork. Drain it out. Throw it back in. Cream. Drain it out. In your pot, you're going to do cream. Melt your butter in your cream. Lots of butter. Lots of butter, lots of cream. Put it in there. Throw in your potatoes back in. Big chunk of cream cheese, Philadelphia cream cheese. Toss it in there. Plenty of salt, pepper, and then you take your mixer, right? Whip it until it's completely decadent and creamy. Put it on your plate. Sausage, pork, sauerkraut, mashed potatoes. It all blends together. It's like peanut butter and jelly. It's a perfect blend of flavors. And that's how we eat it up here in Pennsylvania. It started in Scranton. It's now number one. Dun, 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 dun. Pennsylvania polka. That's what you're doing.
Fuck yeah. No, I got to come down there and actually get you to make that shit for me because that sounds delicious. Yeah. But yeah, we are coming up on 2 hours, so we're going to wind it down. But I think it's important to note as we kind of close it out here that we started out talking about the history of it. We talked about a guy named Escoffier who basically turned cooking into a science. He quantized it. He wrote everything down. He made sure that this could be passed on to the next generation by writing, for anybody. Basically, in some ways, he democratized it by telling you got to cook it this way and with this quantity and everything like that. This is how you build a tradition. This is how you build a culinary tradition in your family, right? Your family recipes, especially if you got kids, your family recipes are a tradition. The taste of your kid's childhood will become an immensely, immensely important part of who they are, right? This is their patrimony. Don't deny them their patrimony, right? Learn to cook and write that shit down so that you can communicate it to them, because our food for us as folk, as Europeans, as especially Northwestern Europeans, our food just is us. in a very, very real way. Like there's a German idiom that goes, man ist, was man isst. And what it means is you are what you eat. And it's a bit of a pun, which is kind of lost in the English because of ist, is and eat. Then this is a very archaic way of looking at identity, right? Like you are literally what you eat. It's kind of a materialist way of looking at it. And materialism is kind of taken to be something kind of modern, and immaterialism is supposedly traditional. This is gay, right? That's not how it works. The archaic Indo-European house father would go and pour wine at the tomb of his forefathers to quench their thirst. He would leave food at their tomb to sate their hunger, right? He would slaughter horses and slaves. And even in some cases, in some branches, even the wife would go into the tomb with the dead husband, with the idea that these would serve him in the afterlife. To leave or displace the tomb was a grave offense and would only be done in the most dire circumstances, because the literal man rested there, and to leave the physical space was to leave him behind. Does this sound like a people who believe that the material, like, didn't matter or was secondary or degraded? No, obviously not. And that's the way it is with food. We are what we eat. Our corporeality is totally inseparable from our soul. Our culinary traditions are inseparable from our corporeality, and these traditions are absolutely critical to who we are. The land spirits, the spirits of in the cupboard, in the pantry, the penates, the domovoi in Russia, the landvetir, the tomte in Northern Europe. These are the guardians of the domus. They're the guardians of the home, right? And the home is the primitive church for our folk. And at the heart of the primitive church is the funeral feast for the dead. So if you can't cook, if you're just microwaving chicken nuggets and eating ramen and shit, you're denying these domestic spirits. So if your life is kind of shitty, maybe that's why. Maybe you're being haunted at every step by these phantoms, right? So be a fucking man. Learn to make a festal board. Learn to make a good meal. Do it for your family. Do it for your kin. Do it for your friends, and do it for your forefathers, because you should be having a domestic cult and leaving them offerings every day anyway. So learn to cook. It's very important. It's an important part of being a man. And I think that's a good note to leave it on.
And do it for yourself. It tastes good, and it brings back memories of when Grandma and Grandpa, Nana and Pop used to make. Right. So it's great stuff. Save you money. Tastes way better, and it's a flex. Impresses girls. You can't beat it. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll see you guys next time here on Culture Dad's Age of Sword and Cassette. If you're not signed up already, make sure to go over to ImperiumPress.org/podcast and go get access at the Gumroad to all the great perks that Imperium Press is offering. Hardback books, man. Let me tell you, I got a hardback book of the Edda. I got a hardback. Dude, these hardbacks are next level. Like Mike is throwing, like, this is serious stuff. This is great stuff. So if you want that to have your books, your Imperium Press versions of the Western canon, to have immortality and foreverness and sit on your shelf and to give it to your kids, this is how you get it. It's great stuff. Go over to the Gumroad, get signed up, help Imperium Press reach their destiny, become the institution that they were born to be, and save the Western canon from those that are trying to erase it. So go over there, get signed up. You want to check out what I'm doing? Go over to thebizarrearchives.com and go buy some cool stuff, man. We got great books over there. Let me tell you, man, it's all in and around $10. Lots of great stuff, dude. Cosmic horror, science fiction, adventure, fantasy, whatever you can think of. We got it over there. Cyberpunk, all kinds of stuff. Noir stuff. We all have stuff over there too. We got CDs for sale now. Vulcansman, Neo Folk. We got Dungeon Synth CDs. We got art prints up there. Lots of great stuff. So go check us out over there. Follow us on Twitter and Telegram at The Bizarre Archives. And I'll see you guys next time here on Culture Dad's Age of Sword. Set.